I thought I'd start off by showing you how not to paint watercolour, because by showing you how not to paint watercolour you'll get an idea how to do it properly. So it doesn't matter whether you use pan colour, which is this, or whether you use tube colour, which are these. I'll show you both. So this is not how to paint watercolour. So by dipping my brush in, and a lot of people do this, and dipping into the colour and then painting a little bit, and then washing my brush out and dipping into another colour and painting a little bit more, and then washing my brush out and painting into another colour and painting a bit more. And what you're doing there, you're agitating the paint, and you end up with quite a muddy mess, which is not really what you want. So that's how not to do watercolour. Right, so what I'm going to teach you is how to paint it, and it's using a flat wash. I'll use tube colour to start off with. So if I just wash my brush out, I'm using quite a small brush, because if you've not done much watercolour before, a big brush might freak you out. So I'm going to take just some bright red here, and I'll put just a small amount into the palette there, and you can get these from the chemist as a pipette. So if I squeeze a pipette and I'll load it full of water and squish it into that. So it's called watercolour because you use water, funnily enough. And if I mix that all up, you can see now that's got the consistency of I would say semi-skimmed milk. This is going to give us quite a light colour, because with watercolour the more pigment you use, the stronger the colour, and the less pigment you use, the more of the white of the paper is showing through. Right, so what I've done then, I'm going to load my brush. That brush is a reservoir of paint, and it's fully loaded. Look, it's not going to drip anywhere. And if I take that to my paper, the important thing is to tape your paper to a board and to elevate it. I've got the champagne truffle box there, which is going to give me an angle of about 45 degrees. So where we were painting it wrongly, we were painting it flat, and you can see already it's creating a mess. This is on a slope. So I've loaded my brush, and I'm just going to sweep round. Now you'll see what happens is, because it's on a slope, gravity is going to pull the paint down. And there, what happens there, you can see this is called a bead. And that's really important in watercolour painting. What I'm doing is a flat wash, and actually I've always called it a dribbly bottom wash because, well, it's self-evident, you've got a nice dribbly bottom. It's really important to keep that dribbly bottom going. Every so often, as you can see, I just use the tip of my paintbrush just to give myself a nice clean edge, and then I touch the bottom like that. That will just paint quite a lot of surface area. Now can you see I'm not going back into my paint? I don't have to, because there's plenty paint on that paper, and you can see you're getting this nice bubbly kind of texture. And if I just take that down, because I want to show you what to do at the bottom, if it starts to dry up, and you can see there the bead's starting to disappear, that's when I load my brush again, load it with paint, and I can add to it. And again I can just pull it down like that, and pull it down like that, and again every so often I can just, what you don't ever do is go back into that, and I'll show you the reason for that in a minute. Just going to wipe that off on a rag. Right, so I'll take that right to the bottom. What you've then got, you've got a bead at the bottom. So I'm going to take my brush into the water, and I'm going to wipe it on a rag. That is now a damp, and it's what called a thirsty brush. You'll see as soon as I touch that thirsty brush to the bottom, it picks up the reservoir. I just do that, and that'll leave me with a perfectly flat wash. What you can then do is, and I've just drawn some squares there, you can add other colours. I'll just show you the difference, because I'm using, in this case I'll use a pan colour, but it's the same. Look, I put lots of water, use my pipette, I get lots of water in there, so it doesn't matter if it's pan or water and tube colour. And again, the consistency of about semi-skimmed milk. So I've just drawn some squares there, and it's just the same as before. So I'll start off with the blue this time, and even though it's a square, it doesn't matter. Look, I'll just be really careful at the edges, and my bead's starting to disappear, so I'll just add to it. take it down. Now I could either carry on with this blue colour, which is fine, or I could then let it merge into another colour. So I can wash my brush, wipe it a bit, and then I can just add the red to it and let the two colours merge together. So you've got a sort of a slightly purpley colour. Just want to show you while that is drying there, why you don't ever go back into a drying wash. There we are. And that's that wash that I've just destroyed at the top there, is very fragile when it's drying, and if you touch it, you'll get that. So if you find when you're doing a wash you get a little mark or something, leave it until you finish. And I'll show you that in this one here. Can you see I've just got, there's a little mark there, it's just a little hair or something. If I touch that, I'm going to end up with that there. So what I do, I just allow the paint to dry, and I can flick it off with a scalpel blade and fill in any little blemish. Once you've done that, a little exercise to do is to go outside and take a photograph of your house and divide it into shapes. So here's a photograph of a building that I've divided into lots of shapes, just like this here, and I've used this technique to put lots of colour so that you've got a really groovy building. Or you could do it very simply with a city, and if you go onto my website, mysplashyartystory.com, I do lots of city buildings, cityscapes using this method. So thank you very much, hope you found that useful.